This is ASN, covering Atlantic Canada.
This is ATV Headline News on the Hour. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Gravenor. Angry parents in New Brunswick now have the full attention of Education Minister Jim Lockyer. They set up roadblocks in 3 communities to protest the closure of their schools. The barricades came down early this afternoon, though, when the Education Minister agreed to a meeting. More tonight from ATV's Alex Bass.
At daybreak, for the second day in a row, this burning barricade was lit on Highway 160 in Saint-Sauveur. Cars attempting to go through were turned away. It's all a last-ditch effort by parents to stop the closure of their elementary school.
We know that if they bring down our school, what's going to be next?
That was also the feeling in 2 other communities on the Acadian Peninsula, where traffic was slowed to a crawl on the major highway from Miramichi to Caracat. After blocking the road for a day and a half, these Saint-Sauveur parents got what they wanted, a meeting with Education Minister Jim Lockyer.
He's on our territory now. We're not in Fredericton. We're on our territory. We're going to be there for as long as it takes.
With that news, the blockade came down and the fire extinguished. But parents continue to block the entrance to the school. Representatives from 3 schools destined for closure were invited to sit behind closed doors with the Education Minister, but he was non-committal heading into the meeting.
Well, we just want to listen what the committee has to say, and that's our intent at this point in time.
Saint-Sauveur parents have agreed to keep the blockade down for a week and that children will return to school. Jim Lockyer says he'll reconsider the school closing by next Friday. In Saint-Sauveur, Alex Bass, ATV News.
The autopsy of a man who died in Harrietsfield yesterday has found the cause of death to be a heart attack. 56-year-old Nabil Abidadoud of Halifax collapsed and died after a scuffle in the industrial park. Preliminary autopsy results have found he suffered from a medical condition, and an eyewitness says the victim and another man wrestled for 2 minutes before Abidadoud collapsed.
Yeah, they were fighting. Both of them were fighting together.
RCMP from Tantown responded to a report of 2 men in some type of physical altercation outside a unit at Fancy's Industrial Park. Upon arriving at the scene, one individual was noted to be injured.
Police arrested a man at the scene. They later released him, though. They may lay charges once they have more autopsy results. A former Fredericton school teacher has received a 3-month conditional sentence for a sex-related crime against a former student. 57-year-old Ron Duplessis was sentenced today after being convicted of indecent assault. The incident occurred in the early 1970s when Duplessis was the victim's homeroom teacher. In handing down her sentence, Madam Justice Margaret Larlee noted that Duplessis showed remorse for his actions. He will also serve 2 years probation. A married couple convicted of killing a Halifax teenager back in 1991 are fighting for conjugal visits. Stephen and Nina McMaster are serving time for the brutal killing of 17-year-old Kelly Wynot. He's in Dorchester, she's in Truro. They say their marriage is suffering because they can't have sex, and they want prison officials to do something about it. Wynot was strangled, her body thrown in a dumpster. The son of Port Hawkesbury Mayor Billy Joe McLean has been charged with uttering a death threat. RCMP have charged 28-year-old Charlie McLean with threatening a former employee of his father's tavern. Police say alleged incident may have been linked to a recent decision by the province's Gaming Control Commission. The commission unplugged the video gaming machines at the tavern for a week last month. Charlie McLean will appear in court on May the 26th. Meanwhile, police in Summerside, Prince Edward Island are asking retailers on the island to give them a call if they are missing inventory. Officers arrested 3 women yesterday and found 7 garbage bags full of new clothes in their car. The clothes are apparently worth between $4,000 and $5,000. The women have been charged with theft and possession of stolen property. Police say more charges could be on the way. Turning to politics, where New Brunswick's Tory leader says he'll take a 2-week vacation before announcing his future plans. Bernie Valcourt received a less than enthusiastic leadership review last weekend, and there's been a lot of speculation that he'll step down. This morning, the Tories held their first caucus meeting since the leadership review, and Valcourt remained tight-lipped about his plans as he tried to rush past reporters.
Well, that's for me to know. Bye-bye.
And I think he should step down, and I think he has to go before, if he wants to, go before the people again. But that's all I have to do. That's all I have to say right now.
St. John MLA Milt Sherwood was the only caucus member to state his position publicly. While a last-minute deal has saved overnight emergency service for Windsor residents, the doctors in the area have now agreed to continue working at the hospital's emergency room. They had been threatening to withdraw their services because they say they're overworked. But some extra funding from Health Department, along with intense negotiations, has resulted in a compromise.
Is going to be addressed in the long term, but in the short term it's being taken on by a group of doctors that are willing to continue to commit their own personal energy to it.
Members of the Health Board have 2 weeks to come up with a long-term solution. Meanwhile, still with healthcare, a surprise resignation today from the head of the QE2 Emergency Department. Dr. Jim Goulding is leaving the hospital after being there for just over a year. The doctor says he's quitting for personal reasons, but the emergency room and the QE2 have been criticized since the hospitals merged. Goulding admits there are some problems with the new system, but he feels that he's confident they can be worked out. Dr. Goulding will leave his position June 1st. He's returning to his previous with St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. Well, just 4 days to go before the big announcement, and Super City speculation is rampant in the Greater St. John area. The provincial government will make its intention clear on Tuesday, but it looks like the government may be backing away from full amalgamation. Our Mike Cameron has details.
The Premier and Anne Brawl, the Minister, and her senior staff are indeed listening to us.
A tough crowd for the two Liberal MLAs. It was an overflow crowd of 1,000 KV residents, some even demanding resignations.
Are you two prepared to resign? We can work harder by being in government. We can work harder.
Both MLAs insist they're on side with the residents.
We're not isolationists out in the valley. We believe in the greater area. We just don't believe we need to be a full part of the amalgamated city.
LeBlanc says it's the view of most in the KV.
I hope it stays the way it is, or the communities here, become one, and the city stays by itself.
I hope it's in our favor. I don't want to see amalgamation go through, especially in taking Faribault and Rothsay and our Wisconsin area.
The minister herself hinted this week that the roar from the valley would be heard.
That most people, when they get the results, will probably feel they've been listened to.
So today, even the mayor of St. John is betting against full amalgamation.
I think that the government's had too much pressure put on them, and they may have started out wanting amalgamation, but I don't think it's going to happen now.
If that's the case, McAlery says the government should come up with another way for suburbs to help out the urban core. The government has invited mayors from the entire region to a pre-announcement meeting on Tuesday morning to break the news.
Ever since the release of the Cormier report earlier this year, it has been assumed that the village of Westfield was going to be left out of the equation. But the mayor of Westfield is on the government's guest list for Tuesday morning. He'll be getting the word along with everyone else. In St. John, Mike Cameron, ATV News.
The community of Cook's Harbour on Newfoundland's northern peninsula has declared a state of emergency. Massive amounts of melting snow have made the already narrow roads almost impassable. In some places, the water is as high as the bumpers of cars. One councillor, Barry Decker, tells us the school is closed because only the doors and roof are visible. He says local roads are like moose trails. The province of New Brunswick has a new lieutenant governor. Dr. Marilyn Trenholm was sworn in this afternoon in Fredericton. Trenholm, a former cabinet minister, sat as an MLA in the New Brunswick legislature for nearly 10 years. She replaces Margaret McCain as the Queen's representative for the province. McCain announced she was stepping down last year to spend more time with her family. Defense Minister Doug Young has just announced the federal government is looking to buy a new fleet of search and rescue helicopters. Young says he wants to replace 13 aging Labrador helicopters built back in the 1960s. He says it's part of his strategy to rebuild the Canadian forces. Bidders have until next month to submit proposals. Young says the first delivery of new helicopters could start in 1999 and conclude 2 years later. Life is about to get a bit tougher for members of Quebec's notorious biker gangs. After plenty of pleading from the province, the feds have moved to toughen biker laws, giving police more power to prosecute motorcycle gang members.
We propose a new approach to fighting gang activity by creating a new offense of participation in a criminal organization. This offense does not criminalize.
However, that falls short of what Quebec wanted. The province was asking Ottawa to make it illegal for anyone even to be a member of a gang. A gruesome story from south of the border in Dayton, Ohio. The bodies of 3 people were found inside a burning house. Police think they were murdered in some kind of robbery attempt before the fire was started. Victims included an elderly couple and another man. So far, no one has been able to identify them. Tense times for passengers aboard a pleasure craft off of California. They were plucked off the boat just minutes before it sank to the bottom of the ocean. No one was hurt, but some of the passengers did get a bit wet. The boat started sinking just after 8 last night, but fortunately, one of the passengers had a cell phone because by 9:45, the vessel was gone.
Careful when we report stories about things that might be true, not to say that they are.
It was a special day in the history of our profession today. A museum dedicated to the history of journalism opened in Arlington, Virginia. United States President Bill Clinton spoke via satellite to the museum, as it's known. Exhibits include Mark Twain's pipe and Charles Dickens' pen. Well, there was a moose on the loose in Idaho yesterday. This meandering moose moved into the city's park, and while he appeared to enjoy his new digs, officials say he needed a permanent place to live. They later tranquilized him and then moved him to a safer location. Still ahead tonight, we have your money, your life, and entertainment. We take you front row center into the dark zone. But first, your weather. You're watching ATV Headline News on ASN.
This is meteorologist Steve Weagle at the ATV Weather Center. Across the country this weekend, showers will move into the Vancouver area and some sunshine is forecast for the prairies. Southern Ontario will be mainly cloudy and cool, and rain and wet snow is headed into Atlantic Canada. An intensifying storm to our south will track along the Nova Scotia coast this weekend, very slowly, so it looks like a messy mid-April forecast. Overnight in the Maritimes, rain is forecast for extreme southern New Brunswick and coastal Nova Scotia. Central New Brunswick, northern Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, and Prince Edward Island can expect a slushy mix of snow and rain. In northern New Brunswick, we'll see flurries. Temperatures will hover near the freezing mark, and slippery road conditions are a sure bet. Tomorrow in the Maritimes, look for rain in the south, a mix of snow and rain in central areas, and light snow in northern New Brunswick. 10 to 20 millimeters of rain is expected, and 2 to 4 centimeters of snow for northern and central New Brunswick. Overnight in Newfoundland, it will be partly cloudy until later tonight, when cloud will roll in from the south. Look for scattered flurries in Labrador, with snow and freezing rain at the coastline. And the Magdalens will be mainly cloudy. Tomorrow in Newfoundland, rain will develop during the day with brisk southeasterly winds and easterly winds too. Clouds and flurries will continue in Labrador, and a rain-snow mix is expected in the Magdalens. And the outlook for the Maritimes includes showers and flurries for Sunday, cloudy skies Monday, and more showers headed our way for Tuesday. Newfoundland and Labrador can expect rain and snow Sunday, rain Monday, and more rain Tuesday. Temperatures will be relatively mild.
Still to come tonight in Your Money, could there be hope for the Donkin Mine? And in Your Life, a warning about water fountains. These stories plus ATV Headline Sports when we come back. Taxpayers poured millions of dollars into it in the early 80s. Now comes word a private company may finally develop Cape Breton's Donkin Mine. ATV's Peter Ryan has the latest.
In the mid-80s, 2 mine shafts were sunk using the latest technology. Some estimate 1.5 billion tons of coal lie roughly 3 kilometers below the earth. However, the mine was never completely developed, and the shafts were flooded to protect it for possible future use. Steve Farrell, along with 2 principal investors, now hope to capitalize. Farrell, a former executive with DEVCO, is hoping to use his mine experience to develop Donkin and sell the coal to the European market.
Coal imports into England are projected to increase more than double in the next 5 to 10 years. Coal imports into Germany are going to do almost the same thing.
The Cape Breton Development Corporation has maintained it does not have the money as a Crown corporation to develop the mine, so it's passed the ball. Cape Breton MP Dave Dingwall says government will help Donkin Resources Incorporated in the initial stages of the project.
We'll be providing for the feasibility studies and the gathering of that information approximately $300,000, and I believe they will be putting in close to $100,000. So it's a good first start.
Steve Drake is president of the United Mine Workers Union. He's been lobbying government for 2 years to develop the mine. However, he's not sure if a private company is the best route to take for developing the mine.
I think we're going to reserve judgment on it until we meet with our people, and we're arranging that right now.
It's expected to take at least 1.5 years to get all the necessary environmental permits for the Donkin mine site, and if it's ever developed, investors will have to pump in $100 million. That's before any mining can take place, and that's expected to be at least 3 years away. In Donkin, Peter Ryan, ATV News.
On the stock exchange floors today, the TSE closed down slightly. In New York, the Dow Jones Industrial climbed just under 45 points. The Canadian dollar closed at 71.44 cents U.S. Gold closed in Toronto at $341 U.S. and the price of silver closed at $4.72 U.S.
ATV Headline Sports, brought to you by your Atlantic Toyota dealers.
Good evening, I'm Paul Hollingsworth. Tonight in Chicoutimi, the Mooseheads can wrap